appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you joining me. Hopefully, I've learned to wait long enough for the camera to start before I start talking. So today, I'm going to be talking about current events. One of those current events is Amazon and Instacart workers. Also, my understanding is Whole Foods as well. All three of these companies' workers are threatening to strike or are striking over health concerns and other issues that are going on in their respective locations. I think that I completely understand their concern. There are many issues. They want double pay. Instacart is also striking. Workers at an Amazon warehouse in Staten Island plan to walk out during lunch. They want hazard pay and sick pay. I don't blame them. I mean, we're talking about according to the mainstream media, a pandemic that is affecting millions of at least Americans. I mean, the pandemic itself, I don't know, but definitely the economic effects are affecting millions of Americans. There was talk that as many as 40 million jobs may be influenced or lost because of this. The other big concern here is Hobby Lobby, right? Hobby Lobby. I put the link there, but this is what it says. Hobby Lobby closes stores, slashes salaries following "God is in control" remarks, and social media has thoughts. Wow, is all I can say. It's all I can say, because allegedly they got fired by email, and said that he also stated that God is in control of the situation. There's one person in particular that's in this that says, going to make this clear. Rabbi Jonah Geffen says, going to make this clear. If you have billions and lay off a bunch of your workers before going broke yourself, that's not God's hand. That's your hand. I agree. 94th richest in the U.S. The guy who's the person who runs this store, right? What's the name? The VP, Darcy Lett, the CEO, David Green. Here it is. So David Green, right, is allegedly the 94th richest person in the United States, with an estimated net worth of $5.1 billion with a B, right? So, wow, is all I can say about that. Ridiculous. This is just a symptom of a larger problem. We have these companies that the people who run them, the people who own them, are worth billions of dollars. Amazon's an example, Hobby Lobby's another, where those people, the CEOs, the people in charge of those companies, they're going to be just fine. Even if all of their companies shut down completely and they didn't see a single dime of money for the rest of their lives, they would still be perfectly fine. They're worth, in the case of Green. Hi, Paul. Thank you for joining me. In the case of Green, which is the CEO of Hobby Lobby, he's worth, I believe the article said again, 5.1 billion. Let me go back to it just so I can see. According to this tweet, $5.1 billion this guy's worth. And he can't afford to take care of his employees during this time. This is a chronic problem with corporations in general. And I will say one thing. This situation really exposes those companies who actually care about their employees versus those who don't. You notice the small stores, the mom and pop shops, have gone out of their way to make sure that their employees are taken care of. Not everyone, but most of them, at least in my area, they are doing curbside service. They are doing deliveries. They are doing carry out. They're doing everything they can, not just to stay open, but they're also doing everything they can to ensure that their employees continue to collect a paycheck, that continue to be able to feed their families as well. And these corporations, these mega corporations that have billions of dollars, right? Crickets. They don't care about their employees. If they did, these people would float it from their personal accounts. They would make sure that their business could. There are loans, right, available from the government now. Low interest, 4% max loan, by the way, as you're going through the bill, the CARES Act that was introduced. 4% is the maximum interest that's allowed to be charged by law for these loans for the businesses, right? So, and you can't tell me that Hobby Lobby the way it's structured. I'll get more into it in another video where I lay out the CARES Act for you completely and where the money's going. I'm still going through it. But the way that it's laid out is if the location has less than 500 people, for those companies that have more than one location, right? As long as each location has less than 500 people working there, which I haven't seen a Hobby Lobby yet that has 500 people working there. But even if Hobby Lobby is not eligible for the loans, right, or grants or any other money, we're looking at $1 billion industry. Hey, Christopher, thank you for joining. I appreciate that. We're talking about the Amazon strike and the Hobby Lobby just laying people off and firing people via email. Can you imagine this company that allegedly, right, keeps God above all and is a Christian company? This is what they've said from day one. We're Christians and we believe in God and we hold him above all else. We're guided by God. And to get an email from this guy saying basically, sorry about your luck. You don't have any more health benefits. And, I don't know what to tell you. This is a guy worth $5.1 billion by some estimates. Billion with a B. This is a guy who could pay all of his employees, right, for months, if not years, and never, ever feel it. That tells you what he really cares about, right? Because I know if I had $5.1 billion and I had however many employees, and this was going on, number one, I wouldn't fire them via email. If they were forced to be laid off because of this virus, I would call each and every one and I would tell them, listen, I'm very, very sorry, but I'm not going to be able to continue to have you come into the store, but that's okay because the government spent $2 trillion to make sure that companies could continue to pay their employees, right? $2 trillion. That's what it was for, was so that companies could continue to pay their employees. Now, granted, not all of that money's for that, but we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars that was for that purpose exactly, right? My best friend got laid off from his job as well. He builds parts for engines for General Motors. Now, General Motors, they switched to building things, ventilators, stuff like that. So they can't use the engine parts. So the company that he works for actually had to shut down. Now, like I told him, I said, hey, this package they put together, the relief package, the stimulus package, whatever you want to call it, yeah, there's some provisions in there for unemployment, but it'd be much better if the companies would just take a low interest loan and continue to pay their employees. It's not the employee's fault. That's, what happened isn't the employee's fault. Many of these loans can also be forgiven, which means that it ends up costing the company nothing. That's what this whole stimulus package was, a stimulus relief package, whatever you want to call it. That's what it was about. That was the whole purpose of this thing, was so that companies like Hobby Lobby, like GM, like many of these other large corporations, right? The alleged beneficiaries of all this money, so that they wouldn't lay their people off, so that the people wouldn't have to be forced to file for unemployment and lose their medical insurance and lose the things that allow them to pay their bills. It sickens me. It really does. It shows where the priorities are. But one thing it does for us as regular Americans is it shows us what businesses we should take our money to. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be doing a lot more local shopping. I'm going to be visiting the small mom and pop shops that used to be all over our country until they were, kind of ran out of business by places like Walmart and Amazon and stuff like that. I'm going to be trying to spend a lot more money there and a lot less money with these mega corporations. I hope that all of you will do the same. I will agree, Christopher. I will say that Christopher said, for those of you who can't really, I don't listen to a lot of the things said about Hobby Lobby at first. A lot of times the reports are made to attack their views. That's correct. A lot of people do attack Hobby Lobby because of the way that they've gone out there and said, hey, we follow God. We are Christians. We are led by that. That's our founding. But many, many places are reporting that Hobby Lobby has laid off a large portion of their staff and has sent out emails to them instead of calling them in person, instead of doing anything else. It's not just one place that's reporting it. I put in Hobby Lobby in the search engine before I started this so I could find out make sure more than one place was reporting it. And sure enough, let's see. Christopher also said, I believe it's officially called the 2020 Corona Pork Package. Yeah, it is. And the really sad part about this is that this money is there. The loans are there. They're very low interest, maximum, according to the bill itself, maximum 4%. And if you follow the guidelines, which again, I'll, get into on future broadcasts, I'll explain it, break it down step by step. You can even get the loans forgiven. These companies, that's what it's for, is so you can take care of your employees, they can keep their health insurance, they can keep all the stuff that they need, instead of having to be forced to apply for unemployment, losing their health insurance, and negatively affecting the economy. It's unconscionable. It really, really is. When you are worth $5.1 billion, right? $1 billion. First of all, I can't even imagine being worth that much money. I really can't. Everybody has those thoughts of, oh man, if I was super rich, what would I do, right? Many of us don't even understand how much money that really is. Just imagine just a tiny interest bearing, very low interest bearing account, and that money scattered, across many, many accounts. You could live off the interest from that for the rest of your life and live very, very comfortably without ever having to touch the principal. Of course, that's not even taking into account investments and all that stuff. But to have a company like that allegedly reveres God and the teachings of the Bible so highly, right? Charity begins at home. Take care of those people with you, next to you, and around you. Before you worry about trying to take care of people across the country or donating to causes and stuff like that, make sure that the people around you are taken care of. That's one thing that I've learned over my lifetime is the people closest to us need help too. Donate your time, donate your money to helping them. One thing that's been shown with this, like I said before, is what companies truly care about their people. And I'm not trying to bash Hobby Lobby because of their views. I think I've always been a supporter of Hobby Lobby. My wife and I take her there all the time. She loves it. She loves Hobby Lobby. She's the one who actually told me about this, and I'm like, what? No, not Hobby Lobby, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, it really exposes what these companies think of their workers and things in general. Support your local businesses, support your local small businesses so that they can make it through this time, right? And for those saying, don't go to McDonald's or don't go to Taco Bell because they're big corporations, I would like to point out that many of these locations are franchised. And so that means it's actually technically a local small business. Now, granted, some of them are owned by, some of them own many stores, and that's a different story. But most of your franchise locations are just a small business that just happens to have a big company's name. Just keep that in mind before you stop, go into McDonald's or Taco Bell. Now, that said, there's nothing wrong with going to a local restaurant, especially during this time when they're having a hard time paying their bills, keeping the lights on. There are places that are having a very hard time making ends meet. My son works at McDonald's, and they're having to shut things off because they're not generating enough revenue to pay for the electricity that's using the freezers and the fryers and the walk-ins and all of these things. They're having to cycle and shut things off so that they're not bleeding money. This is important, and it's not just McDonald's that's affected. Obviously, it's everywhere. So let's talk about what being a Republican means to me. Me personally, being a Republican means responsibility. It means taking responsibility for my actions. It means wanting limited government. It means allowing the free market to do its thing. That said, I want to be very clear. I am not someone who doesn't believe in social programs. I wholeheartedly believe that that's what capitalism, the benefits of capitalism are having the money to take care of the least fortunate amongst us, whether that's the elderly, whether that's the disabled. There are measures in place, and I'm in favor of those. I think it's a tragedy that we're pouring billions and trillions of dollars into defense contractors, but we can't figure out a universal healthcare system that everyone can benefit from without taking the country into massive amounts of debt. I think that we have a lot of improvements that we could make across the board to make sure that we as a society, and especially as a country, take care of our citizens. We have citizens that have horrendous medical conditions and other issues. That's what capitalism does. It provides us the capital, as in money, to benefit those people, to take care of those people. I think that's a job of society. I think that's why we created government, because without government, what are we really doing, right? What's the purpose of government? It's to provide a unity of some sort. Paul says many small businesses buy from other local companies or national, so it's benefiting a good many Americans. Smiley face emoji. And usually far better products and services too. You're absolutely right, Paul. Back to small businesses for a moment. yes, small businesses are the cornerstone of America. They usually, not always, but the vast majority of the time, support other local small businesses. Like many times the small shop will buy from the tailor so that they can offer this or that. I'm not going to pretend to get into supply chain for small businesses, but I will say that many times they support each other. And because it's such an interlinked structure, if you pull out one chain, right, the whole thing falls apart. We're looking at that happening now. Uh, yes, yes. Christopher said that's because government is not about solving a problem. You can run on a problem to keep getting reelected. I wholeheartedly agree, Christopher, and our politicians love to do that. They don't want to solve the problem, and I'm talking about politicians. I'm not talking about people that ran for office because they were tired of what was happening. I believe wholeheartedly that Christopher is one of those people. Christopher Wells, he is on the Hobart Town Council, and I think he is one of those people who ran because he saw a problem and said, "That's enough of this," right? I wouldn't consider him a politician, even though he holds a political office. For what that's worth, uh, he's one of the good guys. And let's talk about that. We have these politicians that create problems, but they don't solve them. They just talk about the problem. They talk about the problem. Chris says, look at Pete V. How many years did he run on stopping China from dumping steel? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. He actually said, sorry, City Council, Chris, you're absolutely right. Christopher Wells is Hobart City Council. I don't know what I said, but I probably messed it up. So he says Pete ran for years on stopping China from dumping steel, right? One of the biggest problems that we had that was affecting our steel industry all over the country, but especially in Northwest Indiana. It's one of the reasons why the steel industry, had such a massive slowdown and layoffs and firings and plants closing and people losing their jobs was because we had China and other countries dumping low quality steel at dirt cheap prices into our economy in order to force that to happen. Visklowski said over and over and over, yeah, let's, elect me and I'll take care of that. Elect me and I'll take care of that. But what did he do exactly? It took Donald Trump. And that's just the way it is. It took Donald Trump to get elected and say, okay, we're going to put some tariffs and we're going to make sure this doesn't happen. We're going to make sure we keep our steel industry going, and we'll make sure that our workers are taken care of. And all the Democrats have done is attack him over and over and over. Even the union, which cracks me up, even the union, right? Who wouldn't be there now with the steel. I won't say wouldn't be there, but would be in a far worse position. Their members would be, not the unions, but the members would be in a far worse position right now if it wasn't for these tariffs, right? Even they attack him. Even they attacked Donald Trump when it was the tariffs that were necessary, right? It was, and let me be clear, the tariffs hurt our farmers. I have family that are farmers. I talked to them about it at length, and they said, you know what? It was worth it. It was absolutely worth it because China has been jerking us around for years between currency manipulation and market dumping and just all the things that China does. We were willing to let that happen and to suffer a little bit so that we could get the United States where it needed to be, and that includes, with the steel workers. Now, I will say the plants themselves kind of overinvested, and as such, they ended up with some problems. But I don't think that was Trump's fault at all. That was just kind of a oops on their part. But going back a little bit, Paul says many of these programs have gone beyond their original intentions, though. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but I believe you're talking about the social welfare programs, right, where people are able to uh, apply for benefits. You're talking about things like food stamps and stuff like that. Is that correct? Yeah, so yeah. So I agree with that. I agree with that. Uh, many of these programs have swelled beyond their original intention. They have created a lot of problems. I am in favor of helping those that need it. I am not in favor of giving people a free ride. I think that we have created many of our own problems in that area. Government has ended up supporting many people. And let me tell you that it's not just about the government and the money going out there to help people. It's the way it was designed. It was incentivizing single parent households, right? It was set up so that if dad was in the home, you couldn't get help. But if dad wasn't in the home, then you could get taken care of, right? Then you could apply for or have housing and food stamps and all of that, right? You could have all of these things that ended up doing far more damage than good. One of the things that is most common is the food stamp program, right? So with Trump, he said recently before all this, COVID stuff, he said, okay, so if you're between the ages of, I want to say 18 and I want to say 40, but I think it's a little more. Is it 50 maybe? Somewhere in that area, but we'll say 40. I think it's a little more, but let's say 18 and 40. And you're not disabled, right? So there's the key. You're not disabled. And you don't have any children, no dependents, then you should work. Now, I don't know why that's so controversial, right? People are losing their minds. Oh my God, we have to get a job. God forbid you have to get out there and get a job. I know it's so hard, right? Especially the economy pre-COVID, right? Oh, it was so difficult to get a job that places were literally hiring on the spot. Now, that said, right now, granted, we have some problems. Now, I have my suspicions about kind of what's all going on, but scrolling back a little bit, Paula says Portage checking in. Hi, Paula. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Paula says every representative in NWI, yeah, the people that run on the issues here. Chris said currency manipulation, steel dumping, intellectual theft. Absolutely, absolutely, Chris. That's one thing that has really become exposed. And you know what else is with this COVID thing? I remember a man running for president who said, we have an awful lot of stuff that's being produced overseas. We should bring our factories home, right? I remember a man saying, we are way too invested in globalization. We need our economy to be strong. We need to make things in America. We need to be proud of things that are made in America. And he was demonized, absolutely demonized, right? There was a full-on assault against him. Isn't it interesting how prophetic those words were? Because we see what happens now when we have half the things that we need, or the majority of things that we need in the case of like medication and things like that being produced in a foreign country like China that has lied over and over and over, that has an extremely oppressive communist regime that is killing their citizens because they don't want them to speak out about what's really going on over there. We're talking about human organ harvesting. There are just absolutely sickening things happening in China. And our president said, hey, this country's not our friend. If you remember, Biden Pelosi, many of those people on the left have said, oh no, China's not a threat. China's our friend. Russia, 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 right? Russia's the enemy. Russia's the enemy. Russia, Russia, Russia. When all this time China has been stealing our intellectual property, they've been dumping steel into our market, substandard, inferior steel into our market. They have been just absolutely taking advantage of us. Our trade agreements that were in place, they were by far the better deal out of this. And that's all that Trump tried to do, was he tried to give us a level playing field, right? All these companies that have been taking advantage of us for years and years and years. That's one thing. We can talk about the things he said on Twitter all day long. But one thing that I salute our president for, my president for, is standing up to these foreign countries and saying, hey, America is no longer going to be taken advantage of. We are strong, we are proud, and we are not going to be taken advantage of. He fought over and over for better trade deals for us. He has made sure that our steel workers have a job. He has made sure that our farmers got the help that they needed. The farmers that were hurt by the tariffs, he made sure that there was money there for them so that they could feed their families during it. And at least my family said it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. Scrolling down a little bit. Thanks, Paul says, but thanks to government, though, we still can't produce enough of the necessary products as we've seen in the past month. Absolutely, absolutely, Paul. We are still way behind, and we have a lot of work to do in order to get things back to where they should be, which is made in America. That's one of the things that I'll tell you, when I went to the USW meeting and was talking about what I would like, right? Where I stood as far as worker rights and things like that. The number one thing that I really want, I remember a time, even when I was a kid, when Made in America meant something. It meant that was the best. Made in the USA was like a gold stamp on something, right? Made in the USA. I want that again. I'm willing to pay a little more for something if it's made in the USA, and I always have been. I drive an American vehicle, even though it's hard to get a car completely made in America anymore, and we all know this. We've watched it happen. But nonetheless, that's what we need. We need people across this country. Now, if you're on an extremely low budget, I understand going to Walmart to get your stuff. I get it. I'm not demonizing anyone for that. What I am saying is that let's do better. Let's try to make sure that these companies can be brought back to America. Let's try to make sure that we're willing to pay just a little bit more, not 5 times the price, but a little more for things that are made in America, for things that support our local economy, especially local restaurants. Yeah, you could go to McDonald's and get, $1.99 cheeseburger, or you could go to the burger joint across the way, right? Like Shoop's. And yeah, it might cost you a dollar or two more, right? $3, $4, $5 for a burger, but it's worth it. You're supporting your local economy. Especially if it's a corporate-owned McDonald's, right? Let's be honest. But the McDonald's as a corporation doesn't need any more money. I know I talked earlier about franchises and all of that. I'm just saying, let's all try to do a little better. Paul says, red tape up the butt to benefit those in Washington only. Absolutely. That's what all these regulations are about, and it's what Trump has tried to cut. You ever notice anytime he actually is able to reduce some red tape, you get the liberals that cry, oh, but it was the environment. Oh, but it was preventing this. Oh, but it was preventing that. I just saw an article. Oh man, I'll have to look for it, but it's a whole bunch of regulations that are tossed out the window in order to help this produce stuff for this COVID-19 stuff, right? It's almost as if those regulations weren't even necessary in the first place, right? Think about that. Ding, ding, ding. None of this stuff is I won't say none of it, right? No one wants a corporation poisoning our water. Nobody wants a corporation poisoning our air. There should be a limited amount of regulations to prevent that. I will wholeheartedly agree with that because that's my water, that's your water, that's my kids' water. I don't want these companies poisoning the environment. But at the same time, many of these regulations, much of this red tape that's just stacked and stacked and stacked, is unnecessary, unneeded. All it does is funnel money into the pockets of bureaucrats and politicians. Uh, yeah, Christopher Wells says over 170 regulations I saw. Thank you for that, Christopher. Yeah, he saw it too. 170 regulations that were cut, right? Just ignored in order so that we can, get on top of this, in order for companies to produce, COVID materials or whatever. Paul says, I saw that. I'll tag you in it. Thank you. I appreciate that. He also said Walton Corp previous to the 2000s. Right, Paul. Yes, that's another thing. If Samuel Walton is not spinning in his grave right now, I will be shocked. I remember a man, Samuel Walton, that started Walmart. The reason, for those of you, I'm sure you've heard the story, but the reason that he started Walmart was because Kmart wouldn't cash his check. He made it his mission to put Kmart out of business, and he has done that. Unfortunately, his kids have turned that company into something absolutely against what the man would have wanted, in my opinion. I don't claim to know his mind, but I do know that he was always very, very friendly to truck drivers. He allowed truck drivers to park on his lot whenever. They could sleep, they could come in, they could shop, they could do whatever. A lot of Walmarts actually put big signs up, no truck parking, right? After the kids took over. He always bought American, he always sold American. It wasn't until he wasn't running the business anymore that you saw all this made in China crap that turned it around and made it into something that, in my opinion, that Samuel Walton never ever would have wanted. Walmart, when it first began, was all made in America for Americans, right? He tried to keep his prices low, but to give us quality products, and what it's turned into is an abomination. And again, in my opinion, it's just my opinion. Here's the thing that I want to say too is we have people that are attacking conservatives usually because they believe that Made in America is a good thing, that we should, have some degree of national pride. I love this country. There's no other country in the world that's like America. There's no other country in the world that has freedom of speech the way that we do, completely protected. There are people that are getting put into jails. In the UK, they talk about, UK has freedom of speech. No, they don't. No, they don't. Look up Tommy. What's his name? Tommy Robinson. Look him up. He didn't have free speech. There are others as well. It's insanity to actually believe that there's another country that has the degree of freedoms and the degree of ability to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, as it were, like AOC would say, that's an impossibility. It's a physical impossibility. Yeah, okay. Just sit down. The adults are talking. I won't even waste any more time with her. But America provides opportunities that no other country does. There's a reason that we have such massive waiting lists. We have so many people trying to make their way into our country. If it's so bad here, right? If it's so horrible in the United States of America, why do we have record numbers that are swarming into this country? Now, I will say Trump and the Border Patrol have done an amazing job. The numbers are way, way down. One thing I find interesting is that Mexico has closed the border. Did you see that? I saw that the other day that that Mexico has closed the border with the United States. I wonder if they'll pay for the wall. That would be that would be funny, wouldn't it? Uh, Paul says it depends on who you talk to as to what free speech means. I agree. I agree. One thing that we've seen is our social media, obviously, is which is another sticking point for me. I believe that we should have a platform that we're allowed to say what we want without getting banned for something that might hurt someone's feelings. Uh, that Facebook is one of the worst for that, especially lately. Allegedly, right? They laid their staff off, so it's all automated. Allegedly, uh, so they don't. They supposedly aren't checking it, so there's a lot of mistakes, right? Mistakes. Uh, I'm sure there's that someone knows someone that has been banned, or you have, or been put in so-called Facebook jail for a little while because you post something that maybe somebody doesn't agree with, or what they classify as so-called fake news. But you can share CNN all day long. That's okay. Uh, I I find it interesting, just on the topic of CNN for just a moment. I find it interesting that as the president's poll numbers have skyrocketed because of his handling of the COVID virus and the fact that our president is talking directly to the American people with his pressers, his numbers have gone up, right? People's approval of him have gone up. That's when the mainstream media said, "Well, we don't know if we're going to carry these anymore because the president's lying," right? I personally, I love catching the highlight reel of him smacking down these reporters that try to twist what he says. Uh, I love it. And personally, I love it. I understand those that maybe might feel that he's a little too harsh in the things that he says or the way that he says it. That's one of the reasons I elected the man. I want to tell you, is because we have far too much political correctness in this country. We have far too much, too many politicians and those that allegedly represent us that are just quiet, that just won't say anything, that won't stand up and say, no, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to be censored. And that kind of goes to what Paul said, is it depends on what free speech is, right? What does free speech mean to you? To me, free speech is the ability to criticize our government without having to worry about jackbooted thugs kicking down the door. It's the ability to say, hey, I think that we have an issue with all of these illegal immigrants coming into this country. I feel like we have an issue with the long-term bureaucrats that are in office, and you can call them the deep state, you can call them whatever you want, but we've seen concerted efforts, right? We can talk about coups and all that, but concerted, dedicated efforts to go against the president, to go against the duly elected president of this country. It doesn't matter how you feel about him. Your job is to do what the president wants you to do. And we've had people that have gone out of their way to stand in his way, right? Since when did that become okay? Just like, since when did it become okay for people to call for attacks on him, his wife, his children, his staff? Maxine Waters said, harass people and basically attack people. Are you out of your mind? Since when did that become okay? I want to know when the charges are going to be brought for that, because we can point out the area in the law where that's prohibited, right? Calling for violence against anyone else, and to be done by by a sitting representative, right? Really? Since when did that become okay? Paula says CNN, aka Clinton National Network. Yeah, absolutely. CNN, and it still cracks me up because you'll get liberals usually that will say, "Oh, you're not telling the truth," and then post CNN to back up their claim. right? CNN of all things. We've seen it. They don't even bother pretending anymore. It is just blatant hate Trump all day, every day, 24/7. Orange man bad, orange man bad. Really, I get, and one thing that I say is I don't believe that actual honest criticism of our president is disloyal at all. I believe it's our job as citizens to stand up and say, okay, that's not quite right, right? When something's done. Like I will be the first to admit that I was very unhappy when Trump caved on the bump stock legislation, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're going to go ahead and ban that." I thought you were a Second Amendment guy, homie. I thought you were going to back us up. Uh, I don't feel that criticizing the president in that way is being disloyal. I don't think it's being anti-Trump. That's our job as Americans. But when your entire network, when your entire platform is attacking the duly elected president of this country, I have to wonder at the motivation. One thing that I like to point out is uh, so if you look right at the news, excuse me, like I said, I always wash my hands before I do that because I'm a face rubbing, touching guy. It's just the way it is. I always wash my hands before I do these interviews. So, don't. Uh, one of the things is if you look at the old footage, right, of the way that the media discussed Trump prior to and post him jumping in the election, it's night and day. It really is, especially once he won the nomination, because there was that whole Pied Piper strategy that's been talked about in the emails released by WikiLeaks. The whole Pied Piper strategy to make sure that he got the nomination so they could destroy him. If you look at the media coverage pre and post 2016, 2015, really, when he really, announced and became the front runner. Wow. Wow, you can dig up old videos where he used to hang out with rap stars and media moguls and actors and actresses and rap singers used to talk about being Donald Trump, how bad they wanted to be like him. And all of a sudden, because he ran against the Democrats, he was all these nasty words, right? I've talked about that before. But to wrap this up, I'm going to talk about fundraising in a COVID economy. So I'm just going to say this. I'm not going to put out. I've seen there are some people that I follow on Twitter that are also running for office, and it seems like they ask for money with every tweet or every other tweet, right? Everything they put out is like, hey, I need money to beat my opponent. Listen, people know you need money. People know that I need money. I'm running for office, especially for Congress. I need a lot of money. But to make your entire everything you say be about, hey, can I have some money? For one, right now is just disgusting. There are people who don't know if they're going to be able to eat. The last thing they're worried about is dumping money into a political campaign. They at this point they don't care whether you get elected, dude. I'm just saying, or lady, or ma'am, or whatever. I would appreciate any donations if you have the extra money, but do not, under any circumstances, send me money that you need to live. Do not do that, please. We will figure something out. That's one reason why I am doing all these live streams, because I don't want to spend other people's money, especially right now. I don't want to do that. My campaign is almost 100% self-funded. I put every dime I had into it, and I will continue to do so. But let's be real. People have bigger concerns. They have much bigger concerns than this right now. They have to worry about their family. They have to worry about buying groceries and putting gas in their vehicle. They have to worry about their kids, and that's the way it should be. I'm not complaining at all. We will figure this out, right? If you end up with the ability to send me a few bucks, I would greatly appreciate it. But I'm not going to release tweets asking for money or any of that. I just wanted to touch on that a little bit so that you understand where I'm coming from, because there are I'm up against a political machine here. You guys know that. Northwest Indiana is controlled and has been for a very long time. Obviously, there are many things that are going on behind the scenes, but even publicly, especially like pre-primary. I can understand post-primary, right? We're going to need a lot of money post-primary. Let's assume for a moment that I win the nomination, okay? We're going to need a bunch of cash. That's just the way it is. But pre-primary, my plan was to go door to door in the neighborhoods, knocking on doors, introducing myself to people, right? Let them see who I am, what I'm about. So let me just point this out. Here's what I'd like you to do for me. If you believe in me as a candidate, many of you I have am so glad to see you are sharing my name, my channel, my information. You're putting it out there. Thank you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. That is the best way to get my name out there. And it's going to be necessary. In order for me to have a chance of pulling out this nomination, it's going to be absolutely necessary that you continue to share me, say, hey, here's a guy worth looking at. That's the donations that I'm looking for, your time. If you can do that, then it will make all the difference in the world. There's really, other than, I will admit there's some advertising I'd like to do. I'd like to run some social media ads here and there to get my name out there, but word of mouth is always better than some little ad that most people are going to scroll past or click through anyway, right? So, one last thing before I go, let me make sure that I got all the comments here. The yard signs I'm working on, guys. I do have a shirt. We're going to get more shirts and yard signs as permitted as I can. I'm going to put another order in for some stuff real soon. I don't know if it'll get delivered with the way things are going with Amazon, being on strike and whatnot. It's going to mess things up. I mean, it's not going to come from Amazon anyway, but I'm sure that it'll be a trickle down. But the last I heard, they weren't delivering non-essentials anyway. Something about that. Now, I don't know if that's strictly Amazon or if that's something else, but yeah, yard signs and shirts, absolutely. I appreciate everything that you guys are doing for me, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate all of the sharing that you're doing. I appreciate all of the word of mouth that you're giving. That's far more powerful than any ad. Thank you. It really does mean a lot to me. The last thing before I go is, does anybody? I've been told that it would be nice to have a video of myself and my wife, perhaps a live stream where you can talk to us if you have any questions for her, or she wants to know what you would like us to talk about if I do that. Answer here or send me a message. Let me know what you think about that. You can get to see kind of the dynamic. Oh, you would? Okay. So I'm seeing some hearts. We're gonna try to set up a live stream pretty soon. She's very self-conscious when it comes to being on camera, so just try to bear that in mind. She might be a little nervous, but we're gonna try to get something set up here real soon. Chris said my school supplies got delivered today. Well, I mean, I consider that essential. School supplies are essential. I mean, more essential than a yard sign, right? So speaking of school supplies, though, how are those of you with children? How are you handling this? Are your kids driving you nuts, or is it more of a wow? I'm really glad I get to spend this time with my kids. I hope it's more of the latter. I know that sometimes their rambunctiousness can be like, if you could just like be quiet for like 5 minutes, I would be eternally grateful, right? But me, myself, I'm really glad to have the opportunity to spend more time with my family. So this is almost an hour now, so I have a little bit longer than the normal ones. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., same bat time, same bat channel. I am working on right now a program I got to wait 24 hours allegedly for YouTube to approve it, but I'm trying to get a program that streams to multiple services at once. Will also allow me the opportunity to have other people on. So if this works out, then maybe I can get some of the other Republicans to get on with me, and we can have, at least a conversation, not necessarily a debate, but a conversation. I think that would be pretty awesome. You guys let me know what you think about that. If I can get something like that set up, I think that would be something that people have asked for before. Can we do like a virtual debate? I don't know if we can end up doing a debate in this format, but I think it would be good to see maybe where some of the other guys, because it's all men, at least on the Republican side. I can say guys and not feel like I'm leaving anybody out. That the other candidates can maybe answer some questions. Okay, I noticed, like, for example, you're against, you're for the right to work legislation. Why? I am against the right to work legislation. Let's talk about why. What do you think about that, Chris? Or do you think that would kind of mess things up for the debate coming up? Do you think it would be better to just leave all of that for the debate, or do you think that it would kind of put things off track? I'd be interested in your opinion since you're the one that set up the first debate. What's really kind of funny is Christopher Wells, City Council of Hobart. He set up the first Republican debate for us for the first district. It was all set up to go March 30th, right, today. But unfortunately, with this COVID thing, we had to postpone, right? He says it will still happen, and I absolutely believe that. The man has been on it, right? He has been on it from day one, and I look forward to it. I really do. I think it's something that has to happen. I think it's something that we're going to need. Paula says, my kids are grown. Chris says, as a teacher, this COVID is financial/job security. Yes, it is. Chris said, more information is never bad. I agree. I'd like to set up something with the other guys. Let me see about getting this streaming this multi-platform streaming thing off the ground and see if it works and how well it works. And then we'll see. Allegedly, it's you can add multiple, like you can have several people on the same time. I think that would be a good thing. So I appreciate all that everybody has done for me. I will not forget it. I will do everything I can for you once I get elected, if I get elected. And I look forward to representing you in Congress. I'll see you guys and gals tomorrow night, 7 p.m., and I hope to see you then. Thanks again for joining me. This will be uploaded to my YouTube shortly. Thank you very much. God bless you. And
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2020. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.